Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Apologize for the little glitch over there. These gremlins get in everywhere. But we've got some really cool things. I know we're out of kids' time, but Jandre and myself are still here, so please feel free to keep asking your questions, and on YouTube as well. So while we've got something super cool lined up now, but while we're approaching it, a colleague of ours, a research colleague of ours, actually pointed out something, and I just need to try to find it again, and it is, stick with us, we just need to find it again. Aha, okay, very difficult to see, and this is like one of the best examples of camouflage that I've ever seen. I'm not going to go close, but if you look down in the grass in front of me here, I'm not even going to like try poke it or prod it or anything. That's just not the right thing to do. So I'm just going to point there, but Jandre's got it there. This is an absolutely beautiful little puff adder. Actually not so little, quite a nice one, that our researchers actually found on their way to meet us at the site. So that's just a really nice example of camouflage in a more exposed environment, compared to some of the other puff adders that we've been seeing the past couple of days that have actually been really tucked into bushes and that. So it just shows even in an environment like this, relatively short grass, pretty sparse cover, you still got them. And I just want to reiterate something here. A lot of people are concerned about snakes wherever they live. Snake bite is such an incredibly rare event. We've never even had an incident like that here. These guys rely on camouflage to avoid detection. They don't want to be involved in any altercations with any other mammal, including humans. So what we're seeing, this kind of behavior is really typical of the species, using this super cryptic pattern on the back, lying motionless, actually flattening its body out a little bit to try and blend in as low profile as possible. And on this side closest to me, he's actually like wedged himself up. It's actually herself, it's a little female, wedged herself up against this little mound of sand closer towards me. So this is a glorious flippin' sighting. But this is actually a hint, and I dropped it just now in terms of one of our researchers met us here, and they spotted the snake. So the fact that it's a researcher that joined us in the field, and I'll introduce you shortly, and he spotted the snake is a good hint as to what we're about to see. So while we're just getting ready and set up on this side, I think head over to Steve with a leopard.
Well, we are indeed still with Shudulu, and well, she hasn't done much, everybody, apart from a couple of yawns and a little bit of a roll in the back, typical cat style, and then she's gone back down again. But we're anticipating her getting up in the next little while as it slowly or surely eventually cools down. We've repositioned, as you can probably tell, to get into a different position, and we're now in the sun, so she's quite comfortable. And well, it's been a bit of a rough start, but we just still want to say Diane Adsit and Pat Fawcett and Louise Shepherd with your daughter Lynn. And we hope you are enjoying the show. I hope it picks up some steam and we get to show you some action this afternoon. Don't forget, questions are the most welcome on the YouTube chat stream and through the Twitter handle, WildEarth. She's alive, everybody. The ears are twitching. Dave was saying to me, do you think she's hungry? Torix, you want to know, she's almost as well disguised as the snake in the grass. Well, indeed. That is the exact purpose of the camouflage, is what we call disruptive markings in nature. It's, oh, hang on, she's rolling over. She's getting annoyed by the flies. Disruptive markings. It is a very good way of saving energy. There's one animal that saves more energy than any animal we can think of, and that's the puff adder. Puff adders, which are obviously big snakes or pretty decent size venomous snakes, get up to about 1.2 meters. We've got a few of them living in camp at the moment, which is quite fun. But they are very lazy snakes. It's not saying that they can't move, But they save an enormous amount of energy by being camouflaged and by just lying in the grass. And if there was a puff adder here, you probably would not see it. I've stepped over countless in my life. I know of 3 that I've stepped over because third person in line was like, ooh, there's a snake there. And so the camouflage helps these animals to hide, not just the adults, but also the cubs. And that works not only for leopards, but also for lions.
Over. Absolutely, Steve. And here we are with the Birmingham Pride. So this is the mom of the 2 new babies. They were just drinking from her. They were literally just suckling. But I think now it got a little bit too hot and they walked away maybe about 10 seconds ago. And they just laid down behind her in the shade, actually just panting a little bit too hot. But so this morning, the Birmingham Pride was found exactly where we showed you the elephants a little bit earlier. So they must have been chased off by elephants coming to drink, and they decided to move just a little bit east, away from that watering hole, into, you know, a bit of shade, a bit of grass. So what we did is we drove to where the elephants were, and we tried to pick up on one of the lion's tracks, and then Sean and myself went for a quick walk, just following the tracks. And what we did was we split up, but because what would happen with elephants chasing lions, the whole pride would just split up and run in different directions. So with that, I walked on one track, Sean walked on another track, and it's a bit of a competition going. So what happened was both of us found the lions, but now we're arguing about which one whistled to who first, because apparently Sean whistled and I should have heard it because he saw the lions first, but I whistled because I saw the lions and Sean heard it. So it's a bit of a competition about who saw the lions first. So we have the mom and her 2 cubs on one side, and then the rest of the Birmingham Pride. The Ross males aren't here, but the young Birmingham male, he's here. He's lying in the grass all by himself, a little bit separate from the pride. And then this mom is also keeping her cubs a little bit separate from the pride. But I'm thinking maybe a bit later, when it cools down, some of these will wake up and they'll come investigate the youngsters again, the small little cubs. So I think we pretty much found our spot for the afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. If we hear anything interesting at the watering hole, we might go investigate. We're not too far, about 150 meters away from the watering hole. But for now, we are pretty much set here. And I mean, you can see in the camera, how is that for camouflage? I mean, we are literally in between 16 lions, and they just camouflage so well. Donkey has asked what happens if you throw food at lions from a safari vehicle. Donkey, nothing good. To be honest, you might get a little smack from the ranger, first of all. And then second, I think the lions really wouldn't know what to do. Especially here, it's never happened to them before. They might go sniff it and then maybe eat it later on. But then it's highly unethical, to be honest, because these animals, they need to know to hunt for themselves. So if you start throwing food at them from a safari vehicle, they're going to get used to the fact that they are getting food from a safari vehicle. Then what could happen is every single time they hear a safari vehicle, they come closer and closer and closer. But then after a while, if you don't give them food, then what happens? They might attack. We don't know. So yes, please, Donkey, don't ever throw food at a lion from a safari vehicle. A few years ago, there was almost an incident like that where a woman actually died. Not in a safari vehicle, but she actually went into a lion park and things didn't go too well. Okay, one of the cubs are actually coming back to the mom on our right. She looks like she's braving the sun. It's a little girl, it seems like. You can see from her face how she's keeping her mouth open. She's very hot. Cute little face. Mom's going to lie back. Maybe the cub's coming to drink again. Let's see. Oh, yeah, too hot. Way too hot. No, rather sleep. I think she just wanted that touch from her mom, knowing that mom is close by. It's a security thing. Oh, here we go. No. Very curious about the world, and I think we were discussing it a little bit earlier, because now they are about 2 months, 5 days, 6 days old, somewhere around there. And you know, it's quite strange that the mother is making them walk with the pride already. So this is the youngest I've ever seen cubs literally out of the den. It's not like they are denning anymore. They are rather following the pride. So it could be quite detrimental to them, or, you know, they could grow up to be incredibly strong. So it was quite an exciting time to follow the Birmingham Pride. Alrighty, so yeah, I mean, as you can see, all cats are being lazy now. See, same thing with Steve on Djuma, so we'll send you back there.
So lazy and so cute at the same time, everybody. Shadulu's rolled over, and it's typical if an animal's a little bit warm. Nice way to cool down with the feet exposed in the air and the belly able to give off any heat. But we were just discussing, I mean, her daughter, whose name is Cara, is about 1.5 years now. So it's possible that she is an estrus, or coming into estrus, or has been an estrus. I've been away for the last 2.5 months, so I'm not too sure. But it's clear that she's not pregnant, or not visibly pregnant, but her mammary glands are definitely a little bit swollen. If we could see them. Can you see them now? I could see them before. Little toe curl. I saw them before. That is a great shot, eh? Mammary glands are now, they're just covered with a bit of fur now. Kalani, I just love this girl. I've found her so many times on foot, and she's very relaxed. Obviously, she's my favorite female leopard. A lot of people who know me and know the show, been around for a while, will know that many of our favorites is the little chief, who's now the big chief, called Hosana, who's moved south. But as with all male leopards, they always move away from home. But Shadulu, being a female, I think I met her probably in the first 6 or 7 months or so, maybe even less, of being here. She's a young lady, a young female who came in, 3.5 years old, somewhere around there, just dispersing from her mom down in Ingrid Dam, down in the south, sort of central. And I've seen her a few times and found her and tracked her on foot a number of times. And she's a very relaxed female, and she's just so pretty. She's very, very pretty. The unfortunate thing is she does spend an enormous amount of time here on the western side of Djuma, which shares a boundary with Simbambili and Arathusa. Simbambili, where we are able to traverse at the moment, but before, unable to traverse there meant that if she crossed, made it very difficult to follow. So I can show you on a little map, because some of you viewers out there probably haven't seen. Ooh, I might have to clean. I've just got a little bit of a marker on there from before. The map is always a nice visual on how to see what's going on with the leopards in the area. Need to give it a quick clean. It's got a whiteboard marker on it. That isn't as easy to clean off as you would think. There we go. Looking much better. Okay, so here is the map that we have of Djuma and the Vuyatela property. And we are currently sitting right over there. Can you see that? Let me use this porcupine quill. We're sitting right over there. So this area in green to the side is Simbambili that we now have traversing. It's a very long, narrow property, and this is all Arathusa below it. So when she first came in, she spent a lot of time sort of coming through here, and this is kind of the area that we used to find her in. And we followed her, nosing around, looking for den sites, and then suddenly she made her way somewhere in here to Arathusa and had her cubs. And then we saw her once or twice in this area. But because this area is quite well vegetated, not many roads in there, she could be coming in and out, in and out, more often than we know, and not really frequenting the middle and easy accessible parts of Djuma with all the roads that we access all the time. So she's definitely staked out the west, and if she does have more cubs, it would be wonderful if she does move onto the western sides of Djuma, that we can traverse more regularly, and to see her every day would definitely make my life an absolute pleasant and lots of joy. But anyway, it sounds like Dylan has got a surprise for you. Let's quickly rush over there and see what it is.
So this is our surprise. I'm going to keep, for social distancing norms, we're going to keep our distance. This is Thilo Beck. He's one of our long-standing researchers from the University of the Witwatersrand, and he's doing really, really interesting research on Cape Cobras on Tswalu. What he found early in the day was this gorgeous, gorgeous cobra. He caught it, weighed it, measured it, and now we're about to release it completely unharmed. And it's just wonderful that you guys can be with us to experience this. I would like to stress from the outset, the snake has not been harmed in any way whatsoever. It's a free-range snake, and we don't encourage anyone handling snakes at home. This is pure research. This is not something to be tried to be duplicated at home. So what we're going to do, Thilo is going to just take it out. I will talk you through it because I've got the mic, unfortunately, Thilo. But look, he's got a great smile with his mask there and his snake shirt. He likes snakes, obviously. Yeah, so we're going to keep a safe distance. I will talk you through it, but please feel free to feed in comments through on that as well. All right, Thilo, over to you. Yeah. So the snake that you're going to see here now is a Cape Cobra. It's one of our many species that we get here. Obviously, the majority of species that we get at Tswalu are completely harmless. Remember, Thilo has got years and years of experience working with snakes, and 2 years just on Tswalu working on Cape Cobra. So he's incredibly experienced with these animals. So now he's releasing the snake. He's putting it on the exact same tree where it came from. Look at that. And the reason you put it at the same place where you caught it, they are quite territorial. The teams are still... Yoko, this is incredibly exciting, and it's not every day that people get to see this, but it's really, really interesting at least. The teams are still trying to figure out, exactly the social interactions between individual Cape Cobras. Are they territorial? Have they got home ranges? How do they interact with other Cape Cobras? The puff adder that we saw earlier and that we've seen for the past couple of days, the other individuals are on the menu for the snake. These snakes will eat, like our researchers say, if they can fit it in their mouth, they will eat it. So, but humans definitely don't feature on their diet. Like any snake, they do their absolute best to avoid us. You can see Thilo release that snake beautifully now, and the first thing it did was go in the opposite direction. That's classic snake behavior of any species, unless it relies on camouflage to remain undetected. So we're learning daily about these snakes. And like I was mentioning, the reason Thilo released the is this is where he found it this morning. It is Gremlin, exactly. It's so smart, so cool to see these things, and beautiful snakes. I mean, there's nothing slimy or slippery or weird about a snake. They're just beautiful animals, inherently a part of these ecosystems anywhere you go. And I think it's just really important that we actually learn to respect them rather than being fearful of them. And the research that Thilo and his colleagues are doing is just absolutely groundbreaking. And the guys will vouch for it. If someone had asked us before they started doing this research to tell them a little bit about Cape Cobra ecology and the distances and times of day that they're being active and what they were eating, we kind of would have had a vague guess. The work that they've done has revealed such a dynamic amongst different snakes within these areas, and just their daily lives and the ecology. And that's just thanks to Thilo and guys and other researchers like him on the ground. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Stack, sorry, I didn't get the name there properly. I'm like trying to hear it there. So we got a lot of other different snakes over here. The majority of them are harmless, and they range in size from what we call a Natal python. It used to be called an African rock python. They get that thick and easily from Tilo to myself, that kind of length, sometimes marginally even longer, that's 6 meters. So we get those huge ones out here, very, very rare. These ones are kind of a little bit more commonly encountered, but not too frequently. But then a lot of the very smaller ones, plenty of common ones, brown house snakes, tiger snakes, grass snakes, sand snakes, so a hugely diverse range. And of course, because of the range of snakes, they are able to prey on a very, very wide range of prey items. The puff adders that we were talking about, they will go mostly for mammals and reptiles, mammals and reptiles and amphibians. These guys will primarily go for reptiles. In fact, anything that they can fit in their mouth, they'll go for. But yeah, it's a massive diversity out here, and we're still learning. Tilo, in fact, found a brand new species of snake for this region. So it's not a new species to science, but a new distribution species. So Tilo, thanks very much for your time. Brilliant having you with. And Cobra, thank you for your time as well. So great joining us. And remember, stay tuned for the new meerkat name, but that will be revealed later. In the meantime, head over to Rowan and the Lions.
Well, there's not too much happening here. Oops. Okay, well, never mind. I think my voice just woke a few lines. The one line there's right in front of us just lifted her head. The rest are all pretty much on their backs. There she goes on her side down. I think the pole might be blocking that. But yeah, all of them on their backs. There's a bit of touch every now and then. A paw curled into another one here or there. You can see that line is cuddling with the little white female. This one's trying to roll over onto its back. And this is actually the easier way of finding lions, is by exposing the white on the bellies. It's one of the things you might, more often see, of course, with the 2 white lines being part of this pride. It's also a thing to look for when you do go walk and track them like we did a little bit earlier. But otherwise, I think all of them are just a little bit too hot. And see, every now and then they'll lift their head and look back towards the watering hole. So I don't know, maybe they can hear elephants drinking there, or maybe something's down there drinking, maybe just a hippo splashing in the water. But for the most part, all of them are very sleepy. Even the little cub has adopted the position of all the adults, which is just lying down on her back, right below mom. Actually, one foot sprawled over to the side, which you might see now. We can zoom into that. But very cute. Very, very sleepy. See that little paw sprawled over to the side, right behind mom. And then her brothers behind her. Ashley is asking what size is the largest pride in the area. Now, Ashley, as it stands, Birmingham Pride, this pride is 18. Berry Pride is quite small, they're just only 11 now. I think it might be Mayambula Pride. I think they might reach 30 or so, but they are further up north. So they go towards the Safari Lodge, but they haven't been seen in quite some time. So I think the largest pride that you'll see on this property now is the Birmingham Pride. So if the Birmingham Pride had to link up with the Birmingham Breakaway Pride, which they every now and then they do, there will be 32 lions in total. Which, imagine, that's basically a super pride. I think Mayambula Pride, they've got a few youngsters with them. I think their numbers are about 30. So, very good question, Ashley. Shame Odie's trying to focus on the young male. He's around there somewhere, but hard to find. I mean, they blend in with the grass so well. Even Emma is saying that's a substantial amount of lions. Yeah, as you can imagine, so with that amount, I mean 32 lions altogether, what do you actually hunt? How do you feed an enormous pride like that? So With them, that's why they split up, and I can tell you that's probably why we have a breakaway pride and a Birmingham pride. It's just because, you know, they can't kill a giraffe every 3 days to feed 32 lions. The last time we saw all of them together, they had 2 different buffalo carcasses, all in the Timavati River. It takes a lot of energy to hunt that. We'd have no buffalo left. But that was before the big drought in 2016. That's when we had more buffalo. Very lazy for now, very sleepy. Good spot though, they're close to a watering hole, and so actually a good spot for them to sleep, because they'll be able to hear if anything's coming down to drink. Zebras, wildebeest, things like that, because they'll have to walk on these paths and come past the lions to get to the water. But anyway, as these are still just resting, sleeping, waiting for cooler air, I'm going to send you back over to Steve with his sleepy cat.
Well, it is indeed that time of day for a leopard to be resting. It's all, I was talking about camouflage and animals, and if you think about yourself, everything that is done in nature is to conserve energy. Or the diet that is selected for is to give more energy for whatever it is the animal does. So as much energy that can be saved, an animal will always choose the easiest route. So leopards, high meat diet, they sleep an enormous amount of the time, just like lions do. Camouflaged, which means they don't have to actively spend as much time on fast pursuit of animals. They rely on stealth and stalking. They do walk around to flush it, but in comparison to dogs, you imagine the amount of energy a dog expends in their hunt. It's enormous, but in their cooperative hunting techniques, it proves to be successful, so they can hunt more regularly and resupply that energy quicker than a leopard can do. So nature, if ever you look at something, you try to figure out what's going on, always think about the energy demands and requirements of it. That's how they have fitted ecologically into the environment. Because, for example, if a scrub hare or a duiker had to run every time it saw a predator, it would get very tired, expend a lot of energy. When if it just sits still and pays attention, and breathes, keeps calm, it can save a lot of energy and put more effort into concealment. That's how evolution has worked. The animal that was more concealed than the other one, those traits were passed on because it was more successful. So life, it's all about energy. The flow of energy through the landscape, it all comes from the sun. The sun provides the photosynthesis on the plants, and then water and the nutrients in the soil provide the plants with all the nutrients, which then, obviously, the greenery and the photosynthesis capture the sun, transferring it into edible food, edible energy, which then flows from plants into primary consumers, which are your herbivores, and then they, which eat a lot. You notice, have you ever seen a horse eating? It doesn't stop, it's eating all day. Rhinos as well, elephants as well, eating all the time. Whereas a predator, a small bout of eating, but it has to also make up a lot of that energy, because as the energy moves from the vegetation to the zebra, it decreases enormous amount by the time it reaches the lion or leopard, and then even more so when it reaches the decomposer. But it's all returned eventually, but most of the energy is given off as heat. Most of it is given off as heat in metabolism. Kerry, it's all about energy, and humans have we waste so much because we've evolved this ability to design things, or we've designed things. I can't say we've evolved to design things, but we've designed things to make our life easier. So because our life is easier, we then still somehow manage to spend more energy than anything else. And the things that we use then turn into waste products that aren't, unfortunately, recycled back into the environment. So When it comes to balance of nature, have a look at everything in nature, from a bird to a beetle to an insect to the grass, anything you might come across. And just work out its energy requirements with regards to the environment, with regards to the water, how is it feeding itself, what is its life cycle, who feeds on it, and all of these things are connected and evolved in that way. And it's a very, very cool thing. When I educated students on ecology, many of them were initially quite overwhelmed with ecology and thinking, oh no, how am I going to understand ecology? But ecology is basically the study of how an organism fits into its environment with all of the abiotic and biotic factors. Now, they might sound like big words to you, but it's very straightforward. Abiotic means non-living, so environment, meaning temperature, heat, water, soil, rainfall, climate. All of those are the non-living entities of the world, and then the biotic are the living. So how does the leopard, let's talk about Tswalu here, how does the leopard survive with regards to all of that? Well, it's in the shade to cool itself down. It's thirsty, it drinks water. When it's cold, it goes walking and moving. And the soil, well, it doesn't really use the soil for very much, but the soil itself provides the vegetation, which then provides the food for the animals that the leopard eats. So without the soil, you wouldn't get the habitat as well that you find these animals in. And habitat is direct translation of the vegetation and a direct translation of the animals that will be found there. Mama bear, well, Mama bear, do you hibernate? Animals sleep as long as they need to, depending on who they are and what they do. Depends on the turnaround time of the food in the belly. Small animals have short bouts of feeding, short bouts of sleeping. A steenbok, for example, has high energy requirements. It eats, it sleeps, it eats, it rests, eats, rests, eats, rests. Squirrels, mice, small animals, huge amounts of energy being given off. Large animals, far less energy being given off because they've got a much larger surface area. So even looking at an animal's body size will indicate the diet. A small animal can't afford to eat rubbish food. A large animal can afford to eat an enormous amount of rubbish food and survive. It's the same as with humans. A baby eats regularly high nutrient milk or formula, whatever you give them, whereas adults don't have to eat as regularly and can eat a wide variety of pretty useless food and still survive. It's the same as with all animals. Youngsters or small animals require enormous amounts of energy-rich food. For example, hummingbirds feed on very rich, sugar-rich nectar, which they have to feed on in abundance to keep up their energy requirements. But insect-eating birds or ground-nesting birds like francolins, they walk around, so they don't spend nearly as much time in food collection, or don't have as much energy requirement in food collection because they walk around and are camouflaged. Okay, well, no doubt Rowan has got some lions who are probably still napping. Maybe they're going to get up soon. Let's go have a look.
Yes, and they better be full of energy. We decided to, change our position a little bit and focus more on the other youngsters, because you can see the face more clearly. So now you've got one of the tawny males sleeping behind the white male, but very sleepy. But looks quite, content with his position. Every now and then he stretches out a paw and stretches like literally the claws, but by doing that, he puts the claws inside the white male's bum. And I really can't be comfortable. So I'm feeling rather sorry for the white male. So what we decided we might do is, sit here for a little while longer and then go towards the watering hole. See if anything else is coming down to drink. Since we are so close to the water, just keep an eye on it. Because we know these lions, they're not going to move for at least the next hour. Or we don't think so. So we'll maybe go keep an eye on the watering hole for a bit and then come back here a little while later. As you can see, they're very, very sleepy, collecting a lot of energy, as Steve was saying. So yeah, hopefully a good night up ahead for all of them. So at least they get irritated by flies, which is why he's got his head up every now and then. Still have these biting flies around and they hurt. So he's snapping at them. Whew, nearly had it. Melinda has asked, why is the lioness so far away from the pride? And then, or is she, or has she moved closer? Melinda, she's lying down about, well, I would say 15 meters, maybe 16, 17 meters away from the youngsters. And the closest lioness to her is probably 10 meters away. The reason I can imagine why she's doing this is because she wants to keep the youngsters away from the older youngsters. Oh, this one's now turned around. Paw in the face. And then rolled back to the same position. So Melinda, you know, this is what we keep explaining, is that with the new babies around, it's quite dangerous for them with the older youngsters, because the older youngsters might see them as new toys. So I don't think she wants to allow the older youngsters to play with them just yet. But she wants to be with the rest of the pride. So it's a scary, scary time for her. And I'm hoping that's why we want to come back here a little bit later, is just to see that interaction between the older youngsters and the new babies. See how they treat each other. But I know that mother's still very, very angry if any of the older youngsters come too close or, you know, make any sudden movements around them. So I think that's why she's just keeping them away off. At least this one youngster's waking up. I think he keeps being bitten by flies. He gave us a yawn. He's licking himself. Maybe he'll decide to move. Like, flies are only biting him, really. The rest, all you can see is flicking ears, flicking tails every now and then. But this one was actually biting at the air a little bit earlier. So there's one youngster that wakes up a little bit earlier than the rest, and so by doing this they wake up the other lions a little bit, but then everyone falls back asleep again. So just hoping that today they're not going to poo very close to us, because last time that was horrific. Probably one of my worst safari memories ever. Now the white lion's being irritated by flies. Let's see him shaking his head. That's being cleaned by his sibling. Yes, that sunlight on her is gorgeous. Yeah, going for the fly again. Moi Noi is saying she's a clever mom. Absolutely, Moi Noi. You know, it's definitely a stressful time. I think that the youngsters are a little bit too young to be walking with the pride. I think they should still be denning. But then again, I was thinking about it the whole day, and what do I know as a human about what a lion should be doing? You know, so maybe this will be good for the youngsters. Maybe it's going to make them nice and strong, make them grow up a little bit quicker, get used to all this walking around and stuff. But we'll see. Like I said, it's her first litter, so you live and you learn, I guess. But Moina, you're right, clever mom. They know, instinctively, they just know what to do. Just watching this one youngster wake up, and you can see the eyes go smaller and smaller and smaller, and then she'll probably just, you know, flop down again and snooze. A beautiful light on her face. Striped Horse asking if lions dream. Do they dream? Striped Horse, I would like to think so. You know, when you watch a dog sleeping and you can see the paws moving, maybe the tail, and then every now and then you'll hear a whimper or something, and then often we say the dog is dreaming. So I've seen the same thing with lions, the paws actually moving in their sleep. I've seen a twitch in their sleep as well, not a twitch to get rid of a fly, but an actual body twitch. So I think they do dream. I don't know what they dream of. Maybe, you know, chasing giraffe or chasing Sean through the bush when Sean thinks he found the lion first. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I'm pretty certain they do dream. But you know, it's hard to say. It's not like we've ever had a conversation with a lion and asked him, what did you dream about? But if I had to guess, I mean, we always say dogs are dreaming when they do these things, so basically the same thing with lions. Wow, did you see those teeth? wonder, this line, so this youngster might actually just get up. You see it's cleaning itself, it's yawning a bit, but I think it might get up and just shift its position, you know, move a little bit to the rest of the pride, thinking it might get away from all the flies that's biting it. Definitely going to have less energy than the rest. Emo is saying he's sure his cat dreams, and he's definitely sure she has nightmares. Emo, what do you think your cat would have nightmares about? It's weird to think, even with the lions, I don't really know what their nightmares would be about. Maybe elephants chasing them away from the watering hole. Could be. Yeah, it's a strange thing. You know, why would a dog whimper in its sleep? What's actually scaring it throughout a dream? But I guess, I mean, dreams are what? Visual effects. It's your brain working, so I think, I'm pretty sure anything would dream then, really. A small yawn coming. I love watching how angry, like really terribly angry lions can get with flies. The smallest thing, and they cannot catch him. Okay, it sounds like Dylan has something cute and small. That's actually not dreaming, so we're going to send you over to him.
This is really fun to see this species. This is a bat-eared fox. It's actually a little family group. We just seen two of them lying together there. They were just behind the bushes, and we actually startled them when we pulled up. And they moved to where they are now, and then they lay down again. I'm hoping the group is going to settle a bit. This is very, oh, look at it, in the open. I don't know how many of you have ever seen these before, but they got quite a wide distribution, but they tend to be more active late afternoon in the winter months, and then in the summer months late at night. They only eat insects, you know, including a lot of termites. So they're not what we would class as a typical predator. They're actually insectivores. So this is so nice that we've seen these now. Wow, they are quite shy little animals. That's why I'm just cautious about approaching too close or moving closer now. I'd rather just let them settle down and we just observe them from this distance. Look how big those ears are. Okay? Those ears are massive. And that's for detecting prey underground, little movements of insects, sounds of insects underground, pinpointing it and then being able to dig it up. This is really cool. I'm just going to move inch forward very slowly, and hopefully we'll get another sighting of them. But they're just out here to our left, maybe 50-60 yards in from us. So just bear with me a little bit. We're going to try get a... You got him in that gap, Just zoom in on your left hand side. Keep going. Okay, I'm going to go forward a bit. There you go. Yeah, so Mel Gibson, or Gibson, whichever one you prefer, is right with us, and we will bring you back to him shortly. But look at these foxes. Sorry, I'm moving there. We're going to just keep it dead still there for you. Big bushy tails, very long hair. The hair's okay, it's just moved out of frame again now. This is just so fun to see these animals. Okay, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to move forward another. So yeah, they are monogamous in Ngala 1, but you'll get them again. They go in family groups, cooperative breeders, and you'll get one male, one female in the group that'll do all the breeding. Again, all of these societies, including meerkats, it tends to be your males that'll try get into groups, and even a subordinate male will try breed with any of the other females in the group. So typically monogamous, your little male and female there, but it's not unheard of that another male will come in and try mate. I'm going to pull forward a fraction, and while we look at, there's Mel or Gibson or Mel Gibson. He's with us. We have not lost him yet. We've been doing our absolute best to keep track of him. But back to the bat-head foxes. Yes, I'm so chuffed we've seen these though. Jeez. I think they may have moved further into the thickets. I'm just going to go forward a little bit. Thanks, Gremlin. Mel does his best. He really tries, and it's nice to have him with us. Okay, I think these little foxes have moved further in. And for a species like this, we won't go off-road for this. And you can see they, at that distance, they're comfortable with us. Sorry, I didn't get that. Was that a comment there? Okay. Link to see. I'm really messing this up. Now I think while we're trying to relocate these, I think head over to Steve, who's also got some really cool experience with bat-head foxes.
I have indeed. What a wonderful sighting indeed. Black bat-head foxes. I remember finding some up in the Masai Mara with one of my cameramen up there, Big James, who didn't have the biggest experience when it came to wildlife. And we were driving along, and I was looking for a pair of jackals that I'd seen. And I was like, "Oh, there's the jackals. Let's go see them." And he's like, "Are you looking for jackal? There's one behind us." And so we stopped and we reversed, and there was a den of bat-head foxes, not a jackal, but 3 adults and 2 little ones. It was very, very special to see. All curled up together in a little ball with their noses touching their bottoms. It was a special, special time for us. We did a story on that. If you're interested, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Very nice story on the bat-head foxes. But Shadulu has given herself a thorough little grooming. Given herself a thorough grooming now. There's the yawn. Ah, yes. So I'm predicting in the next few moments she's going to decide it's time to get up. She's now just trying to figure out, okay, there's no wind. Can I hear food anywhere? Well, I'm just going to guess. Maybe she's thirsty. Closest watering point to here is either Sydney's Dam. Now that's what you call lounging around, everybody. You can't go about your business until you've given your chest and your tummy a good licking. If there was a couch, she would be on it, eh? A little bit of a belly on her, doesn't she, Davy? We don't know when last she's eaten. I don't know when last Shadulu was seen. But, you know, she could have food in there. I'll have to chat with Tristan later. Unless any of you can inform me about if anybody knows the sexual status of her at the moment. Has she been seen mating? Because it's getting to about that time, you know, her daughter is more than old enough. Got many of you out there who've kept right up to date with these animals, no doubt, and we do value that information that comes forth. Oh, look at that. Her kill, she is itchy scratchy. Now, a leopard's tongue is so rough, it actually rips skin and flesh off of the bone. So it serves a good purpose for cleaning the body. They're very clean animals. They clean themselves. I'm not saying that they're hygienically clean, because there's enormous amounts of bacteria and the like in the leopard saliva that can severely infect a wound. But for themselves, it serves the purpose of healing themselves. Well, Rowan is having a wonderful afternoon. He's got some elephants now trying to cool down a bit.
So we left the lions to come see what's drinking, or what's at the watering hole, and these two elephant males just drinking. Well, they're done drinking now, but quite cool with the sun behind them, the backlit bit. So I think what we might do now, seems that they are walking to the right. So if you remember earlier when we just got here, the elephants all went to the mud. So let them disappear on the side, and then we'll quickly drive around just to the muddy section, see if they go do the same thing, if they try cool themselves down, which they might do. They were drinking for a little while. Of course, being so big, they need to drink quite a bit. Good timing on our behalf though. Those lions are still very, very sleepy, and as Steve was saying, you know, with leopards it takes a while for them to also actually get up because they groom themselves, and exactly the same thing would be happening with the lions. Okay, so we've got the elephants just to our left. Let's try and maneuver around these logs. If one of those gets stuck in the wrong part of the vehicle or on the tire, it could be a disaster. Now here we go. They'll be in the camera shot quite soon. So it's an older bull and a younger bull, but together, because both of them would have been kicked out of their herd by the matriarch. Here we go. Rashad saying that lighting was gorgeous. I absolutely agree, it was stunning. So here they are coming from the left. They might actually just come to this muddy section here where the elephants were earlier, so fingers crossed for that. You can see the young elephant in front, the older one in the back. Let's see, maybe they come scoop some mud on themselves. Actually quite cool to see how deep in the water they went. If you see how wet their feet are, they look like boots. Sniffing the mud. See the trunk going all over. There we go. You can see she's actually, he's actually scooping a bit of mud from side. Oh, it just slipped down. That's cool. Okay. Right. So I'm sure this one's gonna just scoop a bit of mud over itself, throw it all along them. Oh, look at it sliding into the wet mud. It's just going to scoop and throw now. There we go. Cooling itself down. Now the male's just waiting a little bit. Okay, so we're going to sit here for a while. Hopefully not get splattered mud. There we go. More mud. See, I was actually using the feet to shovel mud all over itself.
Good afternoon. I almost said good morning, everybody. Welcome to Prrivelands. Sorry for joining you so late. Better late than never, though. And just like Rowan, we've also got an elephant. And it is the same elephant that we saw this morning on the sunrise safari. The one wearing a piece of jewelry, aka that lovely collar around his neck. Well, it's not really lovely. But anyways, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why he is wearing that collar in a minute. My name is Taylor. And on camera with me today is still Gert. And like I said, we are sitting here in Prrivelands. So this elephant that we've got over here is probably an elephant that comes from the Greater Kruger National Park. Now, I haven't really explained Prrivelands properly to you. A little bit, but we'll go into it. So essentially what happened, this farm was fenced off from Tswalu Game Reserve, from some other private farms, and then also Kalahari, which is a wilderness area open to the Kruger National Park. And the fences were dropped. So now all the animals have moved on in here, including the elephants. So this elephant wasn't collared on this reserve, and he was probably collared a very, very long time ago. They've been collaring elephants for years and years and years in the Kruger National Park. Now, I know it is quite invasive, a big collar around his neck, but what you can't see is how loose-fitting it is. And if he does turn towards us, you actually see how it's dangling quite loosely on his neck. So that big thing at the top is the battery, and that lasts for a couple of years before it completely dies. But what happens is that is able to transmit a signal to a satellite, and will ping this elephant's location for research purposes. Normally it's to try and monitor their movements. So like I said, this elephant was never able to come to this area, but now he's here because the fences were dropped around September 2017, so a few years ago. So he's quite happy to mill around here. And it is very important that we do collar animals. Sometimes they can be, well, in this day and age, it's a lot less invasive. They'll actually put little microchips and stuff into the animal's skin, so you don't necessarily see this big collar. But of course, with elephants, it's a little bit difficult to do that. So this is sort of the way that it's still done. So this Eddie's been traveling round and round. I don't know how long he's had it on for, but he's not one of the biggest bulls that we've seen around here. But he's older. I would say he's probably somewhere between 30 and 40 years old, something like that. He's, like I was saying this morning, he's very tall. Now, Victoria, you've asked a very good question about why collaring typically has a negative connotation to it. I think what happens is that people think that if an animal has a tracking device on it, which is essentially what this is that you're guaranteed to find it. And these wilderness areas become a bit like a zoo. This is in fact not true, not even a little bit. And I can talk from experience. When I was working down on the first game reserve I worked at in the Eastern Cape, it's also a closed ecosystem. It's quite a big area, and the rhinos and things there all have ankle tracking devices on them again to try and protect these animals. So I'll just use them for an example. So it doesn't matter, even if you go out and you try and track that rhino and you know exactly where it is. If it's in a valley that you can't get into or there's no road, you're not going to find it. The same thing with a cheetah or a lion or a leopard. Just because you know where its location is, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to be able to see that animal, depending on what type of vegetation it's hanging around in. So the real purpose of this is for conservation purposes and to monitor movements. Obviously, there's a real risk when you dart an animal, because that's how you have to get these collars on the animals. You can't just, walk up to that elephant with an orange and then it lays down for you and you put the collar on it. You need to either dart the animal on foot from a vehicle, in a helicopter, and these types of things can cause stress to the animals. However, that's done as quickly as possible with the most professional people, the best wildlife vets, the best helicopter pilots. They're in and out there so quickly. The drugs don't necessarily have a long-term effect. They want to keep the animal asleep for the shortest amount of time possible. And when they're down there, so for example, when this elephant got darted, they probably would have taken a blood sample for DNA purposes. And this is also very important, because poaching is a real thing, as you all know. Typically with rhinos being poached a lot, and pangolin, and lions and leopards for their skin, for their bones, and then of course elephants for their tusks, for their ivory. And that's quite sad. So if tusks are found, say for example this elephant is poached, and they confiscate a big shipping container filled with ivory on its way to some place in the world, they can take DNA samples, and this day and age, again, everything has been digitalized, so they are able to then trace, oh my goodness, this elephant was actually last seen on this place, blah blah blah, and they can get all this information just from the DNA. They'd probably measure shoulder height, the width and the length of the foot, and a variety of different things too. So it's really important for us as guides and other people to learn from these kinds of things. So I think that it is important. It definitely plays a role, and there are a lot less animals that have got these big invasive collars on these days. Most of the animals, like I've said, reserves and conservation initiatives will essentially, what they will do is they'll raise money. So people will try and fund and put a pledge together and try and raise as much money as they can so that they can put the invasive transmitters inside the animals. So it's very small again, it's a very quick procedure, and it's not, it's not invasive for photography and things like that. I think that, what did you say? Sorry. Oh, sorry, Emma, I apologize, I didn't hear you there. Right, we're going to say goodbye to this bull, or we might meet up with him at Leopard Dam, or if we go to Tristan, who has also found some of these big grey lumps.
Hello everybody. Better late than never, as they always say. As Taylor mentioned, my name's Tristan, on camera. I've got BK. Unfortunately, we've been fixing Rusty's mics and all kinds of things, and so I think we're good now, and we're out and about. But we found ourselves an elephant, which is in the drainage line. We were driving along and we heard some buffalo and we heard some ellies, and so we came down to have a little investigation. They're right at where Tandi's den was the last couple of days. She's obviously moved the cubs since then, so there's no need to worry about it with ellies and things being here. But the buffalo sound like they're still kind of in the block between Central and here, maybe moving towards Gari Dam. These guys are in the Mulawati. They're just digging for water, as one would expect at this time of the year. Still a fair amount of water that's in the riverbed itself, so they can dig. But this particular Ellie is not being cooperative at all. He keeps hiding from us, which is not very nice. Let's see if we can get it, baby. Are you going to come say hello? Craig, indeed. So X, who's our tech guy here, been working hard all day to get Rusty's signal sorted out, and like I say, we fixed the mic problem, so we shouldn't have any audio issues like we had this morning, so we're all good again, which is nice. So hopefully it will be sorted for some time to come. Sometimes these things are a bit of a problem-solving nightmare, and you kind of test and figure out and test, and it takes quite a while to get it right, but we've managed. Like I say, X has done a sterling job today to get it right. The plan for the afternoon, I don't really know what we're going to do. We kind of just got out of camp, so there's not really much in the way. I'm not going to travel too far. There seems to be, like I say, buffalo and ellies around, so we'll hang out with them. Unfortunately, with the dogs went back into Simambili this morning after we finished up, but given how close Shadulu is to where Simambili is and Steve, I'm not going to go into Simambili. We'll let Steve go in. If Shadulu crosses that way, maybe the dogs appear with him just now. So that's the kind of plan, I think, for the afternoon. And so we'll just mill about the stuff. Yes. Why are you being grumpy? I don't need you shouting at me today. I've had a rough day. Don't start with me. We're going to otherwise have a big box today. No, I'm not in the mood for you to be cheeky to me. Stop it. This is typical young bull behavior, though. It's trying to intimidate us, and as you can see, it's going to be a big show, and there's going to be ears, and there's going to be all kinds of other nonsense on display, and eventually he'll start to settle back down again and realize that we're not trying to hurt him, we're not trying to do anything. What you see now is actually him not feeding because he's hungry. This is him doing what is known as displacement behavior, very common thing for young elephant bulls to do, where they pretend like they're feeding, and if you watch him carefully, he'll break a few little branches and he'll kind of put them in his mouth, and a lot of them will actually fall out and leaves will fall, and the vegetation, while he eats some of it, is not really consumed like he normally would. And it's more about him being able to stand close and watch us, and for him to kind of fool us into thinking that he's not watching us anymore, and he can kind of then judge what we're going to get up to and whether or not we're going to be in any way a problem towards him. So that's why he's the way he is. But it's a busy spot. I've just seen a giraffe walk in the distance. So we've got a giraffe here, we've got elephants, we've got buffalo, lots going on in this particular section. There was also lots of Franklin's alarm calling, which is part of the reason why we actually came down here. And I know Steve had a leopard calling from this area this morning, so we'll hang around and see what we can get. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Steve talking about leopards, and I wonder if Shadulu's going to get up and get going.
Well, she's looking straight at us, and she's been yawning. She's given herself... Oh, more yawns. Oh. How can you take that seriously, everybody? This is a fully grown, mature, dominant female leopard in her prime. And how do you take that seriously when she rolls over like that? Catch the flies. Catch the flies. There we go. There we go. Yeah. There's the cat stretch. Another downward facing dog. Ooh, halfway. take that seriously, that's for sure. Do you see that? She looked at me and said, "What? You won't take me seriously?" Now that is a female sawing, everybody. Apologies for the aerial that got in the way there, but what can you do? Let's keep up with her. She's heading straight back into Djuma, which is a good thing. She can be tricky to follow sometimes, but she's announced herself. So she might go on a little bit of a territorial sort of display now. She's just having a poo behind the bush there. But while we try to keep up with her, I wonder if she'd ever give an ostrich a side eye. That's what Tswalu Kalahari's got for you. Some ostriches looked at.
In the distance, you've got that a male and a female ostrich. The female is the one walking in the front. She's that lovely browny grey colour. The male is the one at the back with that coal black and the white on the tips of the wings. Just out to our right, and we're not going to pan to it, but there's another pair also walking around. And they are not in the nesting season now, but it's quite interesting the way they. You'll get. I mean, you get one ostrich like this. Everyone knows how big an ostrich egg is. You know, it's like the size of a dozen, or sometimes they say 2 dozen chicken eggs. So that's a really big egg. But you'll get to a nest, and the nest is like this big round scrape on the ground. There can be 20, 30 eggs in a nest. It's like, well, okay, well, how does one bird lay all of those? And actually, what they're doing is you get a dominant hen, so the dominant female in the area. She selects the nesting site, and she lays her egg there. But then you get a number of the subordinate hens that have also mated, and she allows them to lay their eggs in the nest as well. But there's a huge benefit to it, because you think, well, she's the only one that incubates them, her and the dominant male. They're the only ones that incubate them, but the advantage there is massive in that in these environments where you've got things like hyena moving around, you can get lions, very rarely, but you can get lions raiding ostrich nests as well. Because she's laid her eggs first, and all the subordinate hens have laid their eggs around it, the chance of her eggs actually surviving any kind of predation attempt or being exposed to very cold weather, if they get out from under the wings in cold weather, the chance of her eggs actually surviving and hatching is the best. But there's also a really, really important advantage for any of those subordinate hens, because they get off scot-free. Okay, so they lay the egg, and then they can amble off and go do whatever they feel like doing without any further concern for those eggs. And you know what? If some of their eggs don't hatch, so be it. But there's a strong likelihood that a lot of their chicks will. Sorry, Vicky, if you can please repeat that question. Yeah, Vicky, I think it can be a hard life for ostriches, and I'm really looking at it from a bad perspective here, but they never strike me as being the most intelligent animals. But I've got nothing to base it on. I've got nothing against ostriches. They're really cool birds. And another fallacy that often gets perpetuated is people say, oh, the male only incubates the eggs at night. That's why he's black. And the female only incubates the eggs during the day. That's why she's brown. And it's not the case. I mean, on Tswalu, we've seen males and females incubating eggs at different times. So that doesn't hold water. And that's also the fun thing with the research that we do at Tswalu. We're not doing research on ostriches, but research as an example. The more people can put into research, the more you can actually reveal about these different species and what is the actual mechanisms in place, what's really happening with the ecology of species, not some random observation that someone once saw a male ostrich incubating at night, therefore it's gospel. But while we're enjoying this, we're actually trying to find some artwork, but I'm really hoping. But in the meantime, head over to Rowan with the lions.
You're quite right, Dylan. I have done all my searching for the day. These cubs are now moving around, the small ones, and they just spooked a bird. So it's actually quite strange. They are not with the mother. They are actually next to a different lioness there. You can see the lioness is snarling at them every now and then, but not really doing anything. So the mom is a little bit to the right. So it's lovely. This is the interaction that we wanted to see, that we wanted to watch. The reason why we parked here is so they can move freely around, you know, and do whatever they want to. But I think they haven't come closer to the youngsters, to the other youngsters just yet. They keep going from one lioness to another lioness. But now one of the youngsters is getting up. So not even going towards the cubs, looking in our direction. So while we were with the elephant, you know, spraying itself with mud, one of the Ross males started roaring from the east. So we decided to leave the elephant, which eventually ventured off. We came back to the lions to see how they are reacting to that. But since we've been sitting here, no sign of the Ross, no sound of the Ross male again. But some of the lions are actually starting to get up and groom. Both of the cubs are awake and going. Of course, it's like any baby. They get quite bored rather quickly. The white male is grooming himself. He's also getting irritated with flies every now and then. Maybe the same fly that was bothering his sibling a little bit earlier. Oh, here you can hear the Ross male. Okay. And can't get over how cute they are, and I completely just spend hours with them when I do have the opportunity. You can see the one, yeah, just that little tail. So it sounds like both of the Ross males are together now. It definitely sound like two lions, and the reason why I think it's the Ross males is because none of the lionesses actually got up and looked in that direction. So if those were two other male lions, they would seem more concerned about the sound. You know, they'd actually look up, listen in that direction, try to determine, are they coming closer, how far are they, and then maybe even move their cubs because it would mean danger. But because none of the lionesses actually woke up to listen, I don't think it would be any other lions than the two Ross males. It's quite far east. Those two cubs are busy behind that female. Maybe in a little while we'll see if we can switch over to that side, see what they're up to. This is the reason why I parked here is I wanted them, I always thought they would come around to this side. Graham, the question he has, he wants to know, what do I call a pile of lions? Graham, I just stick to pride, to be honest. I think I'll just stick to either sleepy pride or walkie pride, but pride of lions works for me. I know certain people call them puddle of lions. I've never heard of that before, so I just stick to pride of lions. See that lioness in the back now waking up. She's scratching her neck, giving a big yawn. Looks like one of the older aunties. Another big yawn. I find it quite rather strange that the cubs are hanging around her rather than their own mom. They're wonderful to see though. Oh, okay. So, Jared Dupree has got some birds waking up on andBeyond Phinda. We're going to send you over to him.
Welcome back to Phinda, everyone. So I have been defeated by the pangolin, For those of you who watched earlier, you would have known that the goal for this afternoon was to look for pangolin. And unfortunately, it is not to be today, but we will try again another day. But for now, we decided to stop and have a look at a very special bird. Not only special by its looks, it is a very beautiful bird, but also a bird we do not see too often on Phinda. And I'm sure a bird that they don't see too often in Djuma or in Ngala either. Now, for those of you who have guessed, a secretary bird, you are correct. Go ahead. Copy, thanks. We will head there shortly. And you'll notice at the moment they're in the top of the tree. Now, that's often an area where they will roost at night. That's where they feel safe at night. And so these two secretary birds, who are a pair, will roost there at night. But it is also an area where they may nest. Now, I don't think there's a nest in there. We have only started seeing these secretary birds recently. And so hopefully they may nest in this area. And it is typical for them to nest right in the top of a thorn tree. Now, they are quite unique birds. If you don't know what they look like, do definitely try and look it up. They've got extremely long legs. So, Carla, you say that you love these birds. I absolutely agree with you. They're one of my favorite birds. I think the long crest that they have towards the back of their head, the orange fiscal skin that they've got on their face, and their very long legs, and also their hunting behavior. So with those long legs, they'll often stamp down on prey, and they'll prey on anything from an insect to a scrub hare, snakes. They've even been known to eat baby tortoises and, believe it or not, eat them whole. But for most of the time, they will stomp down and kill whatever they are hunting with their brute force, with the hard pad that they have at the bottom of their feet. Now, for quite a tall bird, they're about, at maximum length, about 135 centimeters, which is pretty large, and they only weigh about 4 kgs, so quite light for such a tall bird, and that's just because of their long necks. Their long legs, that they seem so tall. But unfortunately, I don't suspect we're going to have these two birds busy hunting today. Alright, so going from one large creature to another, apparently Steve has a very large female leopard.
We have got in my opinion, one of the largest female leopards I've ever come across. Tristan, a bit more of an expert with that. He can tell you his own opinion. But Tswalu has climbed on top of the termite mound, her namesake. The termite mound is actually called the Tswalu in Shangaan, in Tonga. And she's using it perfectly well as a leopard uses it. I was talking earlier about camouflage, and she's gone up the termite mound. She went up one side, very low, kept her body low to the ground. She's now completely concealed in that grass. We've tried to get access to see her from different angles, and we could not. So if you're a prey animals also don't see color, they see shapes and movement. And she's looking, well, she was looking in the direction of where those baby kudus were. So by going up the termite mound, they go up with their ears flat, keeping level with that of the grass and the termite mound, and so that if anything's on the other side, it won't see them, and also gives them the potential to also get a bit of elevation. Linda, it is termite mound squared, indeed. Laughing at that. Going to be joined by another vehicle shortly. Coming to say hello to Tswalu as well. We're in the prime spot. We tried a couple other angles and the grass has just been too good. She is performing for you all today. She's showing us how beautiful she is. Now, the first few times I've seen her was pretty much like this. She feels that she's invisible up there. I've had her a few times on foot where she's just sat there in this grass, and we can see her because we've got depth perception. But because the outline is broken up by the distractive marks, the markings, they actually blend her in perfectly to the background. And if she flattens her ears, they blend in with the body as well. And even the lines or spots on her face and on her head, they break up that forehead line or the top of her head. Can you see that? Now that she's moving, you can see her. But if you were looking towards a termite mound and you were looking for the shape of a leopard, the purpose of the spots is so well evolved that they just disappear. If you have the time, everybody, or the inclination, you'd like to support us further in bringing you wonderful views of these wonderful characters from the African wilderness, please go to the link below. Show your support, we really do appreciate that. As we wait in anticipation for Shadulu's next move, there's a very gentle breeze coming from the direction she's looking in, sort of cutting across her now. The way she's looking, it's sort of cutting across her. But you see how she responds to sounds still. Sounds will get her moving, but most of the prey she might pick up on will come through olfactory sense. But now that she's up elevated, she'll be able to see movement. Now she's looking for little flicks of tails, little stamps of feet, little flicks of ears. Impala, Ngala, Kudu, Deka. And she's looking very intently for that. If she does see it, she'll probably lurch off and go and get it. But it's not only her who's probably looking for meal. No doubt the lion cubs over with Rowan are probably getting a little bit hungry as well. Let's see what they're going to get up to.
So these cubs definitely playful. Actually, maybe the female's a little bit hungry. What she did earlier was she was actually licking one of the older lionesses that was lying down exactly where they are playing now. And what the lioness did, it was quite interesting. It was like she was shooing away a fly, and she whacked the cub away with the tail, and the tail actually knocked the little cub over. Just to give you an idea of how small and quite vulnerable these are. So now you've got the cubs playing. They are making quite a lot of noise, rustling in the grass and squeaky little noises. Oh, look, that paw going up, pushing the sister away. Wow. But so what this is doing is you'll get the other youngsters getting rather interested. So they are more and more starting to wake up looking in this direction. You've actually got a youngster lying down about, oh, you can hear the squeaking, half a meter away from them, just watching it. But now every single time it tries to get a little bit closer, mom just gives a very low growl, and then the youngster would sit down again. Not yet allowed to play with the cubs. A very good mom. Luckily it's brother and sister. Luckily they have each other, I think, otherwise they'd be very bored. Oh, now looking at mom waking up. You can see that little lioness just lifted her head. The majority of these lions are starting to yawn. The ras males are still calling, but it sounds like they're almost coming closer to this area. It's such contagious behavior. You see one lion yawning, and the next one yawns, and the next one yawns, and the next one yawns. Debbie's asking if we should still be worried about the ras males and these cubs. Debbie, absolutely not. Those are the fathers. So the ras males are not going to kill their own offspring. You know, it belongs to them. They want their own genes in this area. So you don't have to worry about the ras males and these cubs. The biggest worry here for these cubs are the other youngsters. Oh, mom's going to spin around. This might attract Let's see what the cubs do with the mom waking up. You can see the one lioness, the young lioness, is actually starting to look at mom. Looks like she's trying to get away from the brother. Ooh, rather aggressive for that size, aren't they? Lions can play very hard with each other if they want to. I decided enough is enough. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the other youngsters looking directly in their direction. Alamua is saying, luckily their paws are still small. You're right, but those claws are very sharp. And, you know, we were talking about it, even their teeth, they're like little needles. So I think that's actually, I mean, it might have looked like they were licking the older lioness a little bit earlier, but I think the baby lioness might have bitten her tail. And it would only take one bite for that lioness to get a little bit angry. She's going to go groom her cubs. Actually, listen to the little sounds they make. It's going to be phenomenal to watch how the rest of the pride reacts to them walking so close by. Because these are things we don't often get to see, so it's nice to be at this time to see everyone waking up. See that one youngster's trying to grip onto mom's leg. It's a little lioness, and she's actually trying to tackle mom. Because mom's a little bit too big for her to take down. Goes straight through the legs, right underneath mom. And now you can see all the other youngsters watching these cubs as they walk past. Oh, let's see what he does. See one, mom's going straight back to defend it. Actually here you're going to hear a lot of sound. So what he did there, he wasn't biting it, but you can see he's trying to sniff it, trying to figure out what it is. Because they're not used to something so small, so vulnerable. So you're probably going to hear a lot of squeaking noises. They really don't know what to make of it. But then they step away from it because so unsure. You can see the older white male lion also going towards the youngster now that's with mom. And the cub, the little boy, is still behind mom in the grass. But no danger. It looked like they were just sniffing it, you know, pawing it a little bit, trying to make sense of what is this tiny little thing that is now part of our pride. It's absolutely wonderful, very fascinating to watch. A little lioness coming. Siddharth is asking what exactly is the breeding season for lions in South Africa. So Siddharth, there's really no season. You know, often what happens with lions is their time of birth would differ because, see, if the rice males had to leave or lose their territory now, all of these youngsters would be killed. New males would come in, and then what this would do is it pushes the rest or the females back into estrus, you know, within 2 months, ready to mate, and then 3 months after that, they'll be pregnant again. So it's all just to do with circumstances rather than an actual season, like impalas or wildebeest or anything like that. See, the little young male has just joined up with his sister underneath mom now. It's still being very intently watched by every single youngster here. So yeah, Siddharth, there's really no season for them. I don't think they get to choose, which is why you've got youngsters here that are a year and 8 months old, a year and 7 months old, a year and a month old, and then the brand new ones that's only about, well, just over 2 months now. So we're going to sit here and just watch the dynamics the entire time for a little while longer. But for now, I'll send you over to Tswalu and Dylan, who's apparently got a beautiful bird.
So this little bird that's sitting up on the bush over there is an ant-eating chat, a southern ant-eating chat. And it's a very, very common bird in these areas. And why I'm sitting on these dunes, Jandra and I, we're sitting on top of these dunes at the moment. And we're trying to actually find, again, long shot, but trying to look for aardvark. These ant-eating chats will frequently follow aardvark around because as the aardvark goes and digs, they're obviously unearthing a whole lot of other things, including things that aardvark don't even eat, little grubs, caterpillars, things like that. So you can go around, see there's an aardvark in the distance, but then you've got a whole lot of birds around him. It can be hornbills, it can be starlings, ant-eating chats, robins, robin chats. And so it's a bit of a, you're really playing the patience game here. And sorry, my mind's like focused on trying to search these dune crests and the foothills of these dunes now. Yay! We have birding converts. Thanks, Diana. I'm very happy to point out a lot more birds. If you want some more birds for the list. This is a great time of day now for aardvark and even pangolin. You can get pangolin foraging at this time of day, although for them it's probably still a little bit warm. Jandra and I, we haven't quite figured out our plan yet if we do find an aardvark, because it's going to be, I'm guessing, a long walk, because we don't drive into aardvark sightings at all for any reason. So we'll be walking. So if we scan and we actually find one, then we're going to have to be as cunning as a weasel to see if we can actually approach it on foot. always cunning as an ant-eating chat. Or mongoose. Jandra and I, we're just going to carry on here. But then I think head over to Cunning Steve, who's following a leopard. Or cunningly following a leopard.
Dylan, we've been very, very cunning in our approach. We've maybe moved 30 to 40 meters from where we found her this afternoon. And 15 of those meters has been us moving backwards and forwards to get this shot as best as we can. And unfortunately, that's as good as we can do. But that's what you get on a live safari. Live animals doing things in real time. She's yawned again, which indicates that she's probably keen to get moving, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's going to. But how awesome was that call earlier? All cats of the genus Panthera have the ability to make some sort of rasping sound with very specialized mechanisms in the chest cavity. The lions obviously roar, leopards soar. I think jaguars are quite similar to a leopard, but I don't know. I've never heard a tiger make a noise, apart from in movies. I can't always trust those noises. But it's a very characteristic feature to the Panthera genus. Panthera pardus is for the leopard, Panthera leo for lion, quite easy, and Panthera. Okay, well, she's going to do a little bit more grooming because she hasn't gotten her back yet. So while she cleans the rest of her back and gets ready to move on, let's go to Tristan, who's got some elephants for the cleaning. always the last word. Well, I was going to send you over to Tristan, so as soon as Emma is ready to do so, you'll catch up with him.
Well, I'd imagine that's been nice to hear Shadulu saw. Seems like she's really looking for something today. She's been very, very vocal between this morning and this afternoon. It'll be interesting to see what plays out. But as you can see, nice herd of vellies that have come down to Gari Dam. Obviously, time of the day when they generally do come down. But I'm just going to let you watch them and listen to them splash around. So you say this is how you'd like, well, just how you like to spend your afternoons. Nice way to spend the afternoon, isn't it? Quiet, peaceful, Ellie's at a nice big waterhole. It's worse places to be, that's for sure, and worse things to be doing. This afternoon. So not so much that herd there, but the herd closest to us, or the young males closest to us, are the ones that are talking a lot. I think are fortunately giving the impala a bit of a tough time at this stage of the game. See if they chase them. Sometimes they chase these poor impalas. Trumpet at them. Well, that was a fail. You silly boy. You tried to chase them and then you fell over. It serves you right for being nasty. A few different elephants that are spread around here at the moment. There's all these young males. There's a bit of a herd over there, and I saw another herd on its way in this direction and more coming from the back. So it seems like a convergence of a few of them, and that's possibly why you're hearing quite a lot of talking and grumbling and trumpeting and all kinds of other things that have been taking place. Those poor impalas, I feel sorry for them. They just came down for an afternoon drink and they were promptly moved on their way by naughty Ellies. There's a little baby. See the little baby here, Vika? Oh, look at these poor impalas being chased. Oh, what are they chasing there? Oh, a hyena. just goes to show why you don't want to get yourself in the middle of an elephant herd. That poor hyena has just been sent packing, and you can hear much fuss was made, and it is interesting how they all just came together when the shouting started, and interesting that the trumpeting earlier attracted no attention, but this trumpet obviously is a different sound and the different grumbles, which was basically a danger sound, and so everybody comes running to each other's aid. Now, approaching these elephants now wouldn't be the best idea. They're quite riled up, so you need to let them just calm down a little bit before we drive over that side. But it was a hyena that was in the middle of them. I saw it running away as they were chasing. Alright, well, we'll see if they calm down. We'll try to see if we can get a better view. In the meantime, back to Shadulu.
Oh, thanks, Tristan. She hasn't moved much after her spectacle before we tried to link away last time. So that was the sawing that we described before, and you now can tell why it's called sawing. It sounds like a bow saw being pulled through a plank of wood. Male and female both saw. Females have a much longer sort of number of saws that they do versus the male. There's definitely a definite change in the resonance. It's difficult for us to tell the difference in the resonance, but these animals are able to identify individuals by the sound, I'm almost certain. I've obviously never asked Shadulu if she knows what hukumuri sounds like, but they're able to know sort of strength and fitness of the other individual. And it's something that only territorial individuals do. It advertises immediate presence. Scent marking is something that many animals will utilize for territory. It's a way of also minimizing energy, and we discuss this quite often about why do animals have a territory. It's because if you didn't have a territory, you didn't have demarcated zones, you'd have to fight every animal of your species that came in to your area. Unbeknown to them, they don't know you're there. But if you let down or put down very specific signposts, they would know you're there, and only those willing to challenge do you have to fight, which limits the sort of the availability of potential combatants. Doesn't matter how strong you are, if you have to fight every single individual that comes near your territory, you're going to get very tired. So territories actually save an enormous amount of energy. But they do require energy to put up and put into place, especially after rainfall. Many of these territorial boundaries are washed away, and they also supplement those territorial boundaries with active calling, which is what you've now heard twice this evening, which is very, very special to see and to actually hear. And notice when she did it, she put her face quite low to the ground. Helps with some resonance as well. And now that she's elevated, it would have gone a little bit further too. I wonder if Tristan heard it. He's probably not too far away, but he's with some hyenas as well as elephants this time.
No, I didn't hear the sawing, Steve. There's too much commotion here. You can see the hyena, that's the offending party in this group of chaos that is going on. Everyone's starting to settle down a little bit. You can just make it out underneath Ellie's trunk. Can't see which hyena it is, but I think it's got the message now that it's not welcome here. I think there was more than one, because I saw another one run off a different direction, so I wonder if there wasn't just a group of them, but it's been well and truly told to go away. Amazing audio though, isn't it? You can see all the dust in the air from where they've been running around chasing it. Neil, that must have been just for you, because you say you love the rumbling sounds, and our Ellies have obliged. Amazing, isn't it? Oh, with that dust. So Tom Baker is saying, what a family argument. It's not a family argument, this is a family protest, is what it is. They are unhappy about the fact that there's hyena in amongst their ranks. They don't like the disturbance that it's causing, and so they are closing ranks and together are facing the threat and pushing it away. And so that's why you're getting so much noise. And what you can hear is when one starts, another group hears it, and all the family units that are spread throughout this herd respond to one another and come to each other's aid. And they still haven't stopped talking. They're still talking to one another. They're still trying to figure out what's the disturbance. These guys here obviously are aware that it's not a huge threat at this stage, and so are happy just to carry on dust bathing and just adding more mood to this already moody evening. Incredible sound though, isn't it? The amazing thing is they've thrown so much dust, the elephants in the road are now almost not visible. Alison, you say you're more in love with elephants than you were to begin with? Well, I can imagine that's the case. It's quite a show they just put on. There's something incredibly powerful about elephants when they get into that mode and start trumpeting and chasing and doing their thing. It certainly makes you feel very little and very small. The sound that they produce is quite something, coupled with the tremor that they create when they run. It's an amazing thing to be in amongst them. But that dust with those ellies, it doesn't even look real, does it? Looks like a set or a movie with fake dust. Amazing. This morning we were saying we wanted elephants in the mist. Well, I feel like our elephants in the dust this afternoon is just as good, if not better. Emma's saying this morning she sent an email to the animals to cooperate in the mist, so they maybe just got it a bit late. To be forgiven with the number of gremlins this today. Alright, well, we're going to sit here, carry on enjoying these elephants. Why not? It's quite a special sighting. So while we sit here, let's send you across to Dylan so you can name the meerkats.
So we haven't had a huge amount of joy with Aardvark yet this afternoon, but we're not giving up just yet. But on a more exciting note, not necessarily more exciting than Aardvark, but still on an exciting note, is we've had a fantastic response with regards to naming the alpha meerkat with of the Xhosa group. And the 3 names that were put forward, Kabelo, Bontle and Mosadi, a lot of them had a lot of votes. What I can say is I got the name wrong. I didn't choose the one that won. But for those of you watching, thank you very much for participating. It's going to be really cool. The name that we chose, hold your breath, is Mosadi. Okay, so Mosadi is the Tswana word for lady or woman. And I think it's a very, very, very apt name for her. She's an absolutely fantastic meerkat. She's been with us for a long time. So thank you very, very much for contributing. Unfortunately, we're not able to be with them this afternoon, but we are going to link you to a clip that you can have a look at them there. And then we'll do another naming session tomorrow morning that you can join us with. So thank you very, very much for participating. Really fun. This group, we've selected 3 names that we're going to put out there for viewers to vote on. This is the one that we want to get a name for today. Kabelo, Bontle or Mosadi. As a leader of this group, we really want to get a fixed name for her. And the Tswana language, being the local language here, we thought that would be really appropriate to use for that. So Mosadi means female, or it's we can't even say like a leader female, but it means female, which is it's a really beautiful name. And then Bontle means brave, which is a very, very so it means beautiful, which is a very, very apt name for this one. And then Kabelo means brave, which again, super apt name. So either one of those. So it's Kabelo, Bontle, or Mosadi. And those are the hashtags that you can use on Twitter as well, along with WildEarth. So thank you very, very much for participating. Jandra and I, we're actually going to go to the meerkats again tomorrow morning, and we'll do another naming session for those of you that weren't able to join us this afternoon. But it's, as always, it's absolutely wonderful having you with, and it's a real privilege for us having you out on these incredible safaris. But I think head over to Tristan, he's got this incredible elephant interaction going on there, so enjoy that.
Well, we've just been basically surrounded by elephants, and unfortunately are starting to take their frustration out this afternoon on us, which has not been very comfortable to deal with, but luckily they're starting to move off now. So we've had the cows come right up to the car, trumpeting at us and generally just being quite vociferous, which is not an uncommon thing with elephants at times. I'm going to just move, and just now that they've backed off a little bit, I just want to give ourselves a bit more room and not be kind of right where they are. I just want to move back. No, girls, don't start with me. I can see you turning already. What is with the guys, the elephants today? They're all being a little bit boisterous. We'll catch up with them now. Sorry, Emma, your comms are really breaking up. BK, are the comms working for you? They're working for you? Delightful. Emma, I've got no comms with you, I'm afraid. BK, what is she asking? Tom, you say, I hope you didn't get any dust on me. Impossible. If you look out, it's just dust everywhere right now. So that was not going to be possible at all, I'm afraid. I'm just trying to see which way they're going here. I can't actually see them right now. I'm hoping they're staying up on the bank. I just want to double check, because obviously we don't want to get too close to them. And they are up on the bank, that's fine. It looks like they're having a bit of a drink here, so we'll just park off on the side here, keep their nice path open, and we'll be good. Sorry, I can just hear you every now and then. It just breaks up a little bit, but stay with us for a last look. Okay, thanks, Mika. How beautiful is that, though, with the dust and all these elephants drinking? Just listen to them as they drink. Now it is getting a little bit dark. BK, do you want to go into infrared? Yeah. So BK would like to go into infrared, so we're going to just change it in... Alright, so while we sort out our infrared, let's send you back over to Steve with Shadulu.
Yes, we are indeed in infrared, and you're just here in time, everybody. Shadulu has gotten up. She's called one more time, and now she's going to run between us and the other car. And off she goes. Now she's decided to turn and go in the opposite direction. So now she's looking like she's heading in a westerly direction towards the sunset. She's called one more time since you've been away. Okay, yes, turn back. Come back the way we want you to, Shadulu. Okay, well, we're going to have to start our engines now and start moving, because she has got an uncanny ability to give us the slip. Not like Tundi, though, but she does have the ability to let us lose her very quickly. She's heading directly north right now, as I thought she might go have a drink somewhere. I'm not sure. The little muddy pans over here have still got water in them. She's heading directly towards them as we speak. So when it comes to tracking point of view, if you are following an animal and you want to try catch up with them, and you know where the water is, there's a very good chance that they might have gone to the water, so you can catch up with them by that way. Shall I just get in front of her? Michaela, why is she calling so much? Well, she's being territorial. That's a very common thing with these cats, and it's also something that a female, when she comes into estrus, which means when she wants to mate, she actually advertises her presence more and more and more to try and tell a male to say, hello sir, I'm around, come and see me. And then she'll leave some urine, which the male will then find and smell and assess her breeding readiness. And if he can find her through scent, there she is by the tree. Just got another vehicle with us that's using a spotlight. It's very standard procedure on game drive. It's not affecting her. So she just scent marked that tree. So by calling, if a male came to investigate her calling and smelt her scent, he'd be able to find her much quicker by the audio that she's obviously advertising her presence directly to him. But I'm not 100% sure if she is in estrus at the moment, but it is very possible. So hopefully she might attract the presence of the dominant male leopard in the area called Hukumuri. Louis, that's exactly it, except the perfume has got a link to a social media platform which indicates her status and everything about her. So that is what's quite interesting about scent marking, is that it tells far more than just a couple of things. It gives everything: their status, reproduction, fertility, sex, you know. Someone goes and just posts I'm single, you know. It's exactly that sort of thing. The Facebook of the bush, if you will. Shadulu, are you going to go? There's no water here, my darling. I don't see any water here. Oopsie. There's definitely no water here. So she's now going to have to make a decision. She goes right here towards Sydney's Dam, or she takes a left towards One Eye Pan, which is in Simbambili. Right now, I think she's trying to decide. Well, there she is, everybody. Isn't she gorgeous? She's gorgeous, isn't she? She was on my head right there. My new hat. Now, her direction, she's looking towards the west. That is most likely the direction she's going to go. The intention these animals have, often they give their intention by eye contact. Deliberate, it's quite easy to tell. I think she's quite upset that suddenly there's no water in this pan, but it's been some time, I think. Penelope, she's very elegant, isn't she? So she's obviously hearing things as well that we don't quite have the range to hear. So I'd love to be able to hear like a leopard, but we're going to try to keep up with her, see where she goes to. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to andBeyond Phinda with Jared and see what he's up to.
Welcome back, everybody. So, as you can see by the smile on my face, I have some good news for you. So we went out this afternoon. I said we were going to try the impossible task of finding a pangolin, and we almost gave up. But then fortunately, the vehicle who has gone out with us this afternoon to help us find pangolin managed to find one of the males that we have in the area. As you can see, I'm a bit lost for words and breath at the moment. So I do have some good news, one being that we found the pangolin. There is some bad news, but some good news tagged to that is, unfortunately, the pangolin was in an area where there wasn't any signal. Now, before all of you go, oh, Jared, like, how can you bring us up to this pangolin and then drop us off like this? We did manage to record it. So what Marcel's going to do is he's going to play back the recording. It was done about 20 minutes ago. So if any of you do have any questions, I'll try to get back to your questions once Marcel's finished with the playback. Well, I trust that you enjoy it as much as I did. Today in search of a pangolin, and we've just had a brief glimpse of one walking through the long grass. Unfortunately, the area that it's walking at the moment is in an area where there is no signal, and the grass is long, so it's quite tough to film it as it is, but you can hear it walking through the long grass. I'm so excited. We've got Marcel behind the camera, absolutely losing his mind. We're both red in the face. But let's see if we can get another view of this male pangolin. It is one of the males that we have on the reserve. He's just woken up probably about an hour or so ago, and he's out in search to find some ants. They do also feed on termites, but the majority of their diet is ants. All right, let's see if we can get another view. I'm just going to go a little bit more forward. It is walking towards one of the roads. I cannot believe it. I gave up. Should never give up. Alright, so often the best way to find them is just to stop and listen. They are very noisy creatures when they walk through the grass. There it is, there it is. Just found a bit of an open area where there might be some ants. He's busy digging at the moment. Oh my word, I'm lost for words. So at the moment, you might not be able to see, but it's actually walking on his back feet. So they walk with their front feet or up in the air, and they only walk on their back feet. And their front feet and paws are basically just used for moving rocks to find ants and digging into the sand to find some ants or termites. Now, although it is a scaly creature, you might think that is a reptile. It is most certainly not a reptile. A pangolin is a mammal. Now, you might wonder, what are those funny looking things on the tail of the pangolin? It does actually look like what a baby pangolin would look like, but it is not one. So that is a tracking system. And the reason why I said it looks like a baby pangolin is that the mother carries her single pup around on her tail, pretty much in the similar area where that tracking system is. Now, the reason why we have these trackers on our pangolins is that they have been recently introduced, and using tracking systems or collars or tags, as some would call it, is a very commonly practiced within conservation. And it is important for us, while we try to figure out where these pangolins like to feed, it's coming closer to the vehicle, the habitat team is able to track down each and every individual that we have on the property. Ooh, I think it's just found something to feed on. You can see how it's just stopped and curled its body up a little bit. It's not curling its body up because of us. This pangolin isn't afraid of us at all. You can see feeding away as if we are not even here. The reason why I said it's not curling up is that that is the way pangolins will defend themselves. If a predator like a lion or a leopard or a hyena tries to kill the pangolin, they're able to roll up into a ball. And those scoots on their back are very, very strong. And it is said that only a hyena may potentially bite right through them. Right, I'm just going to move a little bit forward. I'm hoping he's going to come. I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. Unfortunately, it wasn't live, but it was 15 minutes delayed. And I guess a delay is better than nothing at all. Well, while Marcel and myself gain our breath after a fantastic evening, Marcel's still got a big smile on his face. We're going to send you off to Tswalu.
We've just watched an absolutely stunning sunset. We didn't get much joy with Artfark this evening, unfortunately, but tomorrow is another day, and it'll bring its own rewards. You know, if we hold thumbs and keep putting in the effort, it will pay off at some point. And I see there's a number of you that are really enjoying your birds, so I will start including a couple more birds on our drives. Jandro is actually a really, really keen bird watcher, and he's very, very good with LBJs, all the little ones. So I think during our drives we'll actually refer to him a lot in terms of helping us identify these difficult to identify species. Yeah, you know, he's got depths, hidden talents there. But we're gonna carry on, and Tristan's having the most incredible elephant sighting, so I think head back to him, and we're going to start slowly bumbling back to camp.
We do indeed. Just listen to all of this around us. There's talking, there's leaves, there's dust being thrown. means it is elephant ghost, particularly with the amount of dust in there. It's actually amazing. It almost, like I said, it looks like mist. The lights from the dam cam are all kind of as though they're coming through a thick layer of fog. So it is a bit ghost-like as they appear from this mist, but the audio is just unbelievable. She says this is a huge herd. I think it's more than one that have come together, because they've come from different directions when we got to the dam. There's one's coming from the north, some coming from the south, some coming from the east. So I suspect it's a kind of family group that's come together, but it is a big herd. I mean, there's probably, reckon, at least 30 to 40 elephants here, maybe more. So it's a large unit. You think about how many have gone past us and how many are on the road in front, and there's still more to our left. There's a lot going on. Now, your IR not working, buddy. It is. So BK is just trying to sort out his IR. Sorry about that, everyone. Yes. BK's got it all right now. You can see how dark it actually is and how amazing the infrared technology is, particularly for viewing animals like this. We wouldn't be able to do this without our infrared, just purely based off the fact that it would obviously disturb these guys. So better just to sit in the darkness and use the infrared and the moonlight to watch what's going on. Alright, so now talking about lots of interaction and amazing behavior. Let's send you across to Rowan. He's got line interaction.
So we left the Pride purely because it was too dark, and then went in search of the male. And we found the male and followed him right back to the Pride. It's actually quite cool to see how majority of the Pride members actually came and greeted him. So he's been roaring a lot, and we're actually hoping that he might roar one more time. But I think he's just been roaring. Of course, what he's doing now, you can actually see his hind legs, so he's urinating in that area, trying to get his scent across. So he's doing a territorial display, which is also why he was roaring. It would be wonderful if he started roaring. You can hear the hippos in the background. All the nocturnal noises now are coming together. But the other lioness with the two young cubs, she's not come this way, so she's still lying down in the back. And what I've got now, I've got this spotlight on with the red filter, but actually shining on the front of my vehicle, and they are lying down about 10 meters in front of my vehicle, and this by itself is just creating enough light, so I'm not shining on the lights at all, or on the lions at all. See, this is the blonder of the two Ross males. He's been calling a lot tonight. I'm just saying how amazing it is that these lions can find each other just by smell, because none of them answered back to this male to tell him, yeah, we are here. There was no contact call or anything. He just knew exactly where to go. Their own type of tracking. You can also not see the Birmingham young male. He is here in this area, but of course he's not going to come greet the Ross male. Being very territorial. So he's getting his urine all over his paws, his hind paws. So now when he walks, wherever he walks, his scent goes and deposits itself. We can hear the hyena now. Like I said, a lot of nocturnal sounds. David is saying this is just awesome. David, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Even more awesome if he decided just to roar one more time. So I wonder now if maybe he'll stop because he found the rest of the pride. Of course, he's away from his brother, but when we heard them the first time, it sounded like the two of them were roaring together. They go lie down. Back to being sleepy lions. Yeah, that hyena sound, I must say, it's definitely one of my favorite noises. Okay, while we wait for the lions to roar, it sounds like Steve's also waiting for his leopard to rasp. So we're going to send you back over to him on Djuma.
Oh, she has called a number of times. I'm almost certain she's mating ready, and she's trying to advertise her presence because she's constantly looking. It's like basically shouting out, making a big noise, and then waiting for someone to come and find you, which is exactly what I think she's doing. She's also managed to find herself a fresh, steaming pile of buffalo dung. Coy she looks at the end there. She's like, did anybody hear me? Why is no one answering? Incredible. You can probably tell a little bit that how dirty she is now. She's rolled and she's covered her face in buffalo dung. They love doing it. They love it. There's enzymes that they ingest that help with the, or should I say bacteria and microorganisms help with their gut. And there's also the eau de boeuf that they like to cover themselves into, take off that predatory meat-eating death smell that's well associated with predators. I've yet to encounter one of our leopards here that's been able to walk past a fresh pile of buffalo dung. Well, she's walked in front of us. Camden, how powerful is that? And she's just a female. Powerful, isn't it? And that carries far. The resonance. It's quite a nice bass. I'd love to be able to put that into a soundtrack. There's been quite a few interesting soundtracks around South Africa lately of interesting things our ministers have said. Someone put that into a soundtrack would be quite cool, I think. Okay, so she's walking up directly towards Gary Gate now, and now she's turning again. We'll be able to catch up with her for some final shots. What have you seen, my darling? Let's just let you have a look-see. What a wonderful day it's been. Cats all around. Phinda coming to the party with a pangolin. I can't believe it. Marcel is never going to stop talking about that. Do you know that, everybody? He's never going to stop. Good for him, though. Well done, Marcello. Okay, so let's keep up with it. Last few moments of the drive. It's been a wonderful afternoon out here. The winter of South Africa so far. Going all the way back. See, like this is... Ooh. What have you got? She's jogging. She's jogging. Didn't see anything. Animals in front. I'm so certain she's trying to find a male leopard. Sorry about that breakup, everybody. We're going to, she hasn't seen anything. She's going to walk on this pathway all the way back over to Simbambili. So that's going to be it for us this evening as she finds one more scent mark tree to do her thing. A little bit of a sniff, a bit of a reapplication of some urine. Everyone knows who's been there. Thank you for joining us from all the wonderful locations. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night and goodbye.